Hey everyone, this is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about masculine and feminine energy in relation to modern culture and what's going on right now in the world, to get a big picture overview so that we can really kind of understand the inner workings of what's happening with masculine and feminine gender and our energies, because it's quite out of whack right now in very many ways, and I think it's causing a lot of dissatisfaction to both sexes, and it has potential really hazardous things in store for us in the future and to future generations that might not even exist if we don't get all of this worked out. So my ideal is by the end of the video for you as a male or a female to understand how you can become very conscious and aware around your divine masculine or your divine feminine, and really going to the next level of expressing and understanding your own energy. Now, this is deep, okay? This has been a theme that I've been playing with in this life. It's part of my life theme. It's part of our cultural theme right now. And I have deeply been investigating it and experimenting with it myself, and seeing what works. And this is coming through the feminine lens. So I probably have biases or whatnot, but that's okay. And I just want to lay it all out here. It might not all be clean and perfect, but it just feels so right to begin to share with you. And I really, really suggest that you watch all the way through to the end, because there's so many different pieces to this that this is probably going to get kind of long. And so I really recommend taking the time and space to really go through this. And as I say things, if you get triggered, or if you get, like pissed at me, or if you feel sad or withdrawn, like whatever emotions come up, like I think that's going to be amazing. Because I want to bring this unconscious real play out of our collective to our conscious awareness and really just bring it up, and when we bring things up, it can cause triggering or different things. It can cause breakthrough and maybe even like joy or like sadness. So I really recommend sticking through all the way to the end so that you can hear my full layout of this subject and get the full broad scope of what we're going to be getting into today. I also want to say that in this video I am going to do my utmost to be as kind to the feminine and as kind to the masculine, but not even that, as kind to women and as kind to men as I possibly can, because both genders have gone through a lot, particularly for millennia. Women have gone through a lot more in regards to suppression and rape and all those kinds of things. Ways too, men have had to be the ones go to war and die for us, and they in ways are just looked at as bodies that can just be discarded. I do want to focus on both as being equally important, and they both are very equally important. And so I want to get to the bottom of how this can be, and thus how we can live in harmony around this subject. Because right now, we're experiencing in our culture, our modern culture, this counterbalance to the suppression of women for millennia. And so what that's doing is it's like, when you're pushed down, you like finally come back up and you come back fighting. And if anything, it swings the pendulum to the other end, to where now there's this resurgence of the feminine, but also this anger and rage of the feminine for what has happened. And then the men are like sad and guilty and scared of the now somewhat masculine women, and it just gets really chaotic and strange. So I'm going to do my best to go through this. I'm also going to be extremely honest, and I'm going to do my best to give really clear examples of different experiences that I've been through, to illustrate things, as well as sharing vulnerability, because I feel like that's one of the things. Oh gosh. I think that's one of the things that women have been missing. that's one of the things that women have been missing. So there's a desire for women to speak up, to finally get that throat chakra moving and to really be expressed, to get their rights, to get equality, like all these different things. But one of the other things that I feel is coming underneath this is this real desire for vulnerability, and ironically, this real desire to be feminine again. So I'm going to get into here just in a second kind of an overview of masculine and feminine energies so that we can get kind of a overarching scope of what we're looking at. And then I'm going to be getting into the specific energy of the masculine and the specific energy of the feminine, and how in ways they've become distorted, things to be aware of, possible solutions, so that we can come back into harmony and balance. So I'll get into that right now, and I'll go back to what I was just saying in a second. But this is deep, and it feels like in some ways I'm channeling this for the collective right now, because there's like a lot of emotion there, and it doesn't feel like it's all precisely mine, because I've played with this energy a lot. But I know that like so many of you guys, especially in this community, love energy updates. Like, yeah, what's this full moon energy? What does this energy mean? And if you like to look at it this way, this is definitely a collective cultural energy update. Maybe I'll title it that, and then maybe people will be interested in this subject. But it really does feel like underneath, let's put it this way. Okay, so I'll get to the masculine and feminine energies in just a second, but I want to lay this out a little bit so that you can understand this other energy moving through right now. And again, I highly suggest doing constellation work, because then you can see how energies move, and you can see how the path of least resistance, things come through. And right now I'm the path of least resistance for this, because I'm an open vessel of this vulnerability at this moment. So the idea is there's been this like suppression, right? And there's been this lack of honoring of the feminine, especially for the last century. And so many girls and women growing up in households, it wasn't like honored and cherished and like relished in the beauty and grandeur of the feminine. There wasn't this resurgence of the goddess vibration going on in our collective at that time. And so what happened is women, as a defense mechanism for not being accepted for who they were, became men, became hardened, became masculine in the face of that patriarchy. It was a defense mechanism. And I had this experience myself growing up, because I grew up in a very patriarchal, religious, dogmatic, culture with the Mormons and stuff. I wasn't Mormon, but growing up in that culture, it was like, whoa. And I could feel like such a deep collective suppression, particularly to the voices of women, the voices of even my grandmother, who my dad said that after she and my grandpa would fight, but after about age 5, she gave up. She gave up fighting for her voice. And so in that space, there's this grand kind of like cultural thing that we can see throughout the world, especially in patriarchal societies, this suppression of women, suppression of women's voices. So then what happens is that isn't accepted, and so then it creates this, again, ironically, it creates and perpetuates more masculinity, and it creates women to then be like, okay, well, the only way that I can survive or be valuable is through developing the masculine. So there's that energy, while at the same time a lot of equality happening that gave rise for the feminine to have jobs, to work, to, not just be a stay-at-home like mom type of situation. So there was a lot of this happening at the same time. So there's opportunity, but then there's also this backlash defense mechanism that then gives rise to women becoming more masculine. And then that's exacerbated by the fact that then they can go have a job and actually play in that field of energy. And I've played with this a lot. It's, again, a big theme of mine, because even in college, right, I got a degree in art and I got a degree in business. And so there's this right brain, left brain connection, I think, generally speaking, to the masculine and feminine, and the right brain maybe being more open, more creative, more feminine, and the masculine energy being more orderly, right, and more assertive and clear and focused. And so I would play going from, say, my art class, my watercolor class, to my macroeconomics class, to this, and it was jostling. That's an example of actually how cool of a position that both men and women are in right now. Because what this has created in this time in our culture, but also spiritually, is fully this realization that we are both energies. We are the masculine, we are the feminine. We have both within us. And the more that we become balancedly aware of both of these energies, the more that we can synchronize with harmony, literally, because it's the yin-yang symbol, right? Like, you need both of them in balance. And this is like a very integral idea, because when you have the balanced feminine, what does it actually automatically do? It balances the masculine. And vice versa, when you have a balanced masculine, the female, the feminine, surrenders to the masculine. And it's made perfectly, right? And it's just that we've, again, forgot it, because we're counterbalancing all these things that have happened, and at the same time we're exploring, right? We're getting these new opportunities, and the same is happening for the masculine, getting these opportunities with maybe like women working more and such, to be able to tap into the feminine, to have more spaciousness, to maybe not have to, take on the responsibility of a whole household. That grants the freedom to explore one's emotions, right? And so in a way, that's offering the masculine this opportunity to really look at the anima, the feminine within their consciousness, and integrate that as an aspect of them, which is really amazing and really powerful. So there's an opportunity here of greater awareness, and then there's also this counterbalance energy, which has just become kind of out of whack. And so I want to do my best to sort that through this video. Now, I feel like one of the reasons that this energy became out of whack is because the development of our own biological gender may have never gotten to develop fully. So in Jungian psychology, like, he talks about developing your anima, or the feminine, if you come in as a female, and then the masculine as you come in as the animus, and you figure that out. Like, you get that down, right? You get that clear, and then you open the spectrum to the unconscious aspect of the opposite of your gender, and begin to then become into more wholeness and integrate that energy. Now, I feel, in my experience, and you can comment below to let me know, there's been very few role models on the masculine side and the feminine side of what the crap we're supposed to do. It's like, okay, my role model was Britney Spears. Like, what are we supposed to do here, right? So it gets confusing and convoluted, and I'm not going to speak to the whole transgender movement and that piece, because that's super deep, and it has its own validity. But I will say that I feel like some of the confusion in energies and orientation and all this stuff is because of what we're talking about right here. It's not clear, and maybe even if we just get clear on healthy masculine, healthy feminine, and what that looks like in the embodied biological gender, then we can have more clarity of what we then really want to choose, rather than having it be all mixed up and kind of distorted. So that's some of what we're working with. And generally, the masculine energy is orderly. It's that focused frequency. And the feminine energy actually is chaos and mystery and the moon in many ways, and nurturing, of course, like the creator of life. So very powerful in its own right as well. They're very amazing energies, and also very different. So one of the things that can happen when these energies, the masculine or the feminine, becomes out of balance in the biological gender, is that it rages its head as this distorted thing like I've been talking about. So, for instance, when the feminine is out of balance, it is manifesting the animus, which is the masculine within the feminine energy, and that arises up like this demonic, aggressive, maybe bitchy, arguing, kind of crazy energy, right? That's how it can just like, rah, like aggressively manifest through females. And then, again, through this Jungian lens, the masculine, when it is expressing a distorted feminine or anima within itself, can manifest as contraction, hiding away, passive, moody, complacent, kind of looking like that little boy playing video games, you know, that you're just kind of, you're like, what is this meek and weak thing, right? So we can see how these energies are playing out, and we can see that they're heavily distorted. But the thing is these distortions in lots of ways have become the dominant expression of women and of men, which the irony of this whole thing with feminism is that the women are actually becoming men. And I don't think necessarily that that's what we were going for. That's personally speaking, that's not what I was going for. And I don't think men, in connecting with like their vulnerability or feeling guilty for being men, meant to become like meek and weak and passive. You know, I don't think we meant this. This is just us trying to balance the polarity, but it's just balanced in a distortive way. And so just kind of like beginning to see this, like I hope that this is, comment below if this is like illuminating or if things are starting to get clear. It is so distorted that it's hard to pull together and to see clearly. And so I just wanted to give this big picture because it's been stirring in me, as you can see, deeply for the past month, but really for decades. This exploration, this understanding. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is that men at this point feel bad for existing. You know, like they're like, I'm sorry, like for being alive. Like women have kind of done that to men. And as I look at that, I think about like my nephew, right? Who's like this little boy, or like sweet boys that like I see around Sedona and such, and I go like, man, like that they're pure and they're innocent and they're waiting for direction, for initiation, which has been kind of extracted out of our culture for women and for men. And it's like they're going to be demonized, like they're going to be put on the chopping block once they maybe hit puberty, you know, and it's easy to demonize like men who are adults. But think about those little boys coming up. We want to encourage their wholeness, right? And we want to also encourage that girls can be feminine. So it's not to say that they have to be exclusively tied to a certain energy, by no means, but that the energy that they're born with or that they're meant to express that's maybe natural to them is absolutely okay and actually very, very necessary. So one of the things that happens that I've seen in myself is this idea of deep like anger, right? Sometimes even rage, like in the feminine, like towards the masculine for what has happened, right? And underneath anger is sadness. So on the surface, it's like, you're the reason for all of my issues, and just like a mass, special, sometimes generalized accusation at men for, again, existing. And then, but underneath that is sadness. And so two things are happening at the same time. One, this anger surrounding, again, the suppression of women for millennia and everything that they've gone through, which is really intense. So there is, quote, a justified anger. But underneath that, what is really desired and what is being expressed is sadness. And what that sadness to me is saying is that, okay, I'm super pissed, but I also really desire the masculine. Like I really desire someone to be a pillar of unwavering strength for me so that I can relax, so that I can surrender, so that I can nurture, so that I can express more of this innate energy of my being. And so I feel like that's part of it. And that's where it gets really confusing, especially in the female mind, is because we're holding many things at once. We're holding like, this anger, we're holding projection, and then we're also holding sadness and wanting the very thing that we're pointing at. Does that make sense? And so I just wanted to break that down a little bit, because I've experienced that in my own psychology, and I've seen that in other people and other women. And so there's thus this fear of men. It's like all men are evil assholes, right? And it's just not true. Like, these hypergeneralizations just like are absolutely uncalled for, because I have worked with hundreds of men, and I love men, and particularly these new generations coming up, the millennials, the youngers, like right in there, they're extra sensitive. Like, have you ever talked to like a millennial man? Like, he is very in touch with his feminine. If anything, like oriented a little bit more towards the feminine. And I think this is part of our disposition, maybe that we came in with actually in these past few generations, is more balance, to be honest. So the women having the capacity to be assertive and to be orderly and to work, and then the men coming in with more empathy, with more compassion, with more vulnerability. And so I think that honestly, we're actually coming in with the sensitivities that are required for balance. So in this state, like as I'm observing, the men are prepared to hear us. The men are prepared to truly feel and receive us. And that is so beautiful and powerful. And so now, like, okay, so what are some of the solutions around this? And to me, it's coming into this verbiage of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So it's actually taking absolute responsibility for your energy, for yourself, for your triggers, for your ability to assert your opinions and your ability to hide away from them. So it's this call, funny enough, to return and at least fully flesh out, to fully embody, to fully understand, to fully initiate the energy that you incarnated in with, right? So like, men, we need you to step up. I want you to be a man. I want you to be strong. I want you to be powerful. And that's where it's been tricky, because we can often, again, generalize and be like, okay, a strong man is a bad man, but that's not actually true. And it's very important, again, in this space to get more in tune with ourselves and to tune into other people. This is where we can use our empathy and our empathic abilities to tune in and go, that is a strong man. Now, is that a safe strong man? Because there's a difference. Like, there's a difference. Now, I've been in situations that were outlandish and not safe with men. And in those situations, I knew that the man was not a safe man. But I continued on nonetheless, and I put myself in that situation and added alcohol to the fire in case we wanted to go more unconscious, right? And so not that there are circumstances absolutely where you are a victim to the energy and there was nothing that you could do. But in many cases, we have to take responsibility for this and truly empathically tune in and make sure that we're in a safe situation and we're tuning into them and saying, is this a safe masculine? Is this a negative masculine? And for men, to be that safe, kind, beautiful man that you came here to be. And this is the thing, like, as we go into future generations, women at this point maybe could do it on their own, right? Like, there's this Beyonce culture where it's like, put a ring on it, like, I'm a survivor, I don't need you anyways. Like, I grew up with that stuff, right? And I'm counterbalancing the suppression, and I'm like, yeah, I got this, and I'm like, I'm an independent woman, like, all these things, right? And it's true, like, I can completely take care of myself, to the degree that, yeah, I could actually get sperm and inseminate and have my own baby. Like, we have that much ability as women nowadays, which is absolutely insane and actually really cool. And in some situations that might be valid to go down that path. But the thing is that is not a whole path. We do need men, okay? The development of children with single parents versus two parents the statistics are completely in favor of two parents. And to actually have a healthy male and female raising a kid, like how incredible is that, right? And so I'm saying this to you guys, and because I give you the full credit of the world to be able to rise to the occasion, to be compassionate for both energies, for both sexes, for yourself and what you've been through, for the other, and then rise to the occasion to be like, okay, how can I come into right relationship with this other energy, right? And to recognize if you have challenge with that. I mean, I grew up with a dad that I really loved and respected. I had a very healthy relationship with the masculine through my dad, through my brother. I've had very bad exchanges with men too, like outside of that situation, but I know that men are good. Some people have bad relationships, and so that might mean that you need to go do some personal work and clean that up, and also then engage and find, and again, empath. Who are healthy men to engage with? What does that energy feel like? Like, what is that, right? And again, to discern between the tyrannical, the patriarchy, the like asshole male, and then the good, the strong, the assertive, the clear, the grounded, the pillar, the powerful man. There's a difference. And so men, rise to that occasion, be that for us, because also in this polarity dynamic, if we're being really honest, through the lens of David Dita's work, is that to have polarity, to have, which then means sexual attraction and fire, this polarity is needed. And if anyone of you have been to one of the Tony Robbins events, you'll know that when you have the relationship segment and he's going through it, and there's like this woman and her husband, and they haven't had sex in 20 years, and she's like, and about to just like smash him into the ground, and he's like, ah! And what has happened in a lot of dynamics is that the women have become masculine and disempowered or emasculated the men because they're scared of them. Because if they're in their power, does that mean that you're going to rape me? Does that mean that I'm going to get hurt? And in some cases it does. But that's why we have to use our discernment and empathy to make sure that we're safe. And also to empower, in a positive way, the masculine to take care of us, to provide. Because inherently, men are good. I know that might sound crazy to you, maybe, but I believe that men are good. And if we can empower them in a healthy way and raise them in a healthy way, in a healthy culture, that they want to provide and do well for us and for society. We've just smashed all of the support that is necessary to raise healthy humans. You know, like, it's just not there yet, and the initiations and all the things required. But a man can be healthy. So in the Tony Robbins events, what happens then is they haven't had sex because obviously there's no polarity if the man is this little mouse on the floor that's a little girl, and this woman is like about to smack him down. Of course, there's not going to be chemistry. So then what Tony does in that case is he breaks her down, but not in a bad way. He breaks her down past that rigid anger in, again, to this space of vulnerability and of the feminine, which she is really, really, really desirous of and seeking. And then in that space, when she melts, what automatically has to happen? The counterbalance in the yin-yang rises to the occasion. Automatically, it's like in perfect harmony, the man starts to get back his balls and his power to then be that perfect accompaniment to her frequency. And then all of a sudden there's magnetism, and all of a sudden the chemistry's there. So that's also very important to this conversation as well, is so that we can have, because I think there's like some pretty solid statistics out where the rates of young people are not having sex, right? And then the infertility rates in the US and then in other places are way low, to where like the populations are going down, which is good in a lot of ways, right? Because we have so many people on Earth. But at the same time, well, for me, I want to create a world where new humans can come in and be raised better and more healthy than ever before, so that they can usher in the new world, right? And be healthy and whole humans, rather than just being like, this human thing didn't work. And the women just go off and they're like, I'm just gonna go work and not have a kid ever, which is valid and fine for some women, but not as a defense mechanism. So the women go off and the guys are like, meh, well, I'll just jack off to porn, which causes all sorts of problems. So we can see what's happening here, and the solutions are to really, for women to be vulnerable and to begin to be open to trusting in the men you intuitively feel are right, and to start gently being curious and experimentally beginning to understand like your own energy and what is really motivating, you know, different opinions and accusations, as well as understanding like what you might not know, you know, and it's really interesting. And then of course the masculine and the men, like, it's time to rise to the occasion. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, the women do deserve this equality, and so it's kind of like, oh, I'll stand down, so yeah, here, go for it. But we also need you to be strong, and there's different segments that certain genders are oriented to, like just naturally, innately, not that one can't do the other, but you know, like, we need people to do physical work or something like that for the masculine, and we need like nurturing women, and it's okay, and that they can switch, that's fine too, but we need each other, and we need each other to step up and be as amazing of humans and whole as we possibly can be. So it's critical, because everything's getting like really kind of weird and distorted. I don't know if you guys are feeling that, but I'm really seeing it, and especially like over time that I've been alive, and like how the dynamics of men and women are evolving. It's not really evolving that well, you know, so we have to keep this in check. And the first place to start is to be very accountable for yourself, to be accountable for your own energy. And so I think that's the most important thing. Now, I've talked a lot about men and women and developing the energetic disposition of that gender. Now, you might have the opposite gender, you might be gay, all of that's cool too. The whole point to part of what we're exploring right now is all of it, right? We're exploring the masculine and the feminine within one person. And we have to understand that an orientation, a slight disposition, or at least a full grasping of your dominant energy is critical, so that you don't unconsciously go into the distorted opposite and play that out and then attack the other that's also playing out their distorted unconscious gender. Right? You see what's happening here? So I hope that this has been clear. I know it started out really emotional. I mean, it's a big deal, right? It's a really important thing to grasp. And I just invite you to have a different respect and kindness for each other, like as fellow human beings. We've all been through a lot, you know, some of us more than others, but nonetheless, I mean, we all deserve some level of compassion and empathy for freaking even showing up here. And we don't know where people have been. We don't know why they've done what they've done. And so approaching people with kindness, I think, is at least somewhere we can start. And of course, beginning with approaching yourself with kindness and really starting to dissect and get into your own consciousness and figure out what might need to be balanced, to be vulnerable and humble to what certain ideologies maybe that we've been carrying, and being able to be flexible enough to shift them, right? It's all about this adaptability, you know, and and that's what this is all about. It's the adaptability of to switch into certain energies when they're relevant. So just like my example in college when I was going to the painting class and the calculus class, like I was learning how to shift, and this is what we're all going to need to do. You know, whether it's a female who like works and she's like, oh yeah, got the independent woman thing going on, which I do, and it's great, it's fantastic, it's something that I love, and that energy. But then when you come home, say to your man, you're gonna need to relax and surrender, and vice versa. Like the man that might be, you know, playing with the children or connecting to his own femininity, and then he needs to like go help lift furniture or is being called to rise to the occasion in this certain category, has to switch into that. So it's really learning this adaptive frequency and learning both of them and what is the healthy version of them, so that we can truly live out the divine masculine and the divine feminine within each of us. So there it is. We did it. Thanks for sticking through this with me. I think I got most of it out. Looking at my notes, I think I did. Yeah, so it's a really important discussion. I hope that you've gained some maybe clarity or insights more to your own energy or perspectives. I would love for you to start having this conversation with people and really making sure that we keep each other in check. So ladies, like, make sure that when one of the other girls is like man-hating, that we offer the opportunity for that perspective not to continue on because it's destructive, right? And that's an energy of the feminine. It's the creator and the destroyer. But to be like, let's stick to creator, you know? And then the man, when like your fellow guys like catcalling or like being meek and just hiding away, being like, dude, like, let's do this. Like, let's rise to the occasion, you know? And then of course being sensitive to the vulnerability of the man, being empowering to the independence of the woman, you know, so supporting it, but supporting what is healthy, right? And so that we can, as a society, kind of re-steer the ship a little bit away from destruction and of a whole gender, right? Again, these are just my opinions. This is just my overview of seeing the landscape and my different experiences that I'm bringing to this. But I hope that it's been helpful for you. If you do like videos like this, I would love for you to subscribe, hit the bell button so you get notifications every time I do new ones. Comment below to let me know where you're at. Even if it's something triggered, that's okay. But if there was something that was helpful for you, like what was the gem out of this that maybe moved you or changed your perspective? And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So have an amazing day, and I'll see you next Tuesday or Thursday with a new video.